Hello, everybody. Let's see here, making sure. Yeah, that looks like it's going. All right, cool. Been a while, huh? I'm sorry. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit today. But the important thing is that the fourth entry in the DvsM series is done. It's in hand. It's right here. I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. I'll be talking a lot more about it over the next few weeks, which is some of what we'll be talking about today. But today, in honor of the official launch, it actually officially went live last night. By the way, there's a trailer if you want to be teased, if you want to get hyped. It's on this channel. You can find it. It would have been the last, I think I posted it last night sometime. The main order of business for me today, comic-wise, I have two things I'm going to do. One thing you're going to do with me, and the other thing I'm going to have to do myself. The one thing you're going to do with me, or at least you're going to be here offering moral support, is so I've got this one is all nicely bagged and boarded as it would be if you ordered it. This is what you would get in the mail. But I've got, you see the stacks of boxes here, a bunch of copies of DvsM 2001, The Soldier, that are neither bagged nor boarded. And also, this is another thing, I totally forgot about this, but first of all, I need to assemble these, a bunch of them, and then I'm going to stuff comics in these, but I'm going to do this part first. Another thing I have to do in between those two steps, I'll show you. This is a comics wellspring thing, which I've mixed feelings about. You'll see. This is how comics wellspring orders show up if you elect to get protective covers. Do you see this? Okay. This is an option. You don't have to do it. There's pros and cons. The pro is it protects the comic. And in my experience, especially given that I have a mostly black back cover, I have noticed a couple times in the past before they were offering this, you'd get a bundle of comics, they're stacked like this, and I would get, I think they were doing it like hot off the presses, and I would just get a little bit of smudgy black transfer on the mostly white front cover, which I was not a fan of. Usually I wouldn't even sell those books. They were just demo books because I didn't want to sell something that was less than perfect. So when they started offering, we can, do a protective cover on every copy, I was like, and it's a very insignificant price upgrade. So I was like, sure, why not? The con is you have to manually remove this from every book, which is tedious and fussy because it's actually just part of the saddle stitching. What they're doing, they're just putting all the pages together, putting the cover on it, wrapping this protective sheet over it, and then stapling it. So in my experience, when you're pulling it off, no matter how careful, no matter how much you're following their instructions, there is a decent chance you're going to end up with a little bit of paper under the staple that remains. And so you're kind of, it's a fiddly process. I do it because it's more important to me to have a clean cover than expedite bagging and boarding. Okay. But it's sort of a drag. It just adds to the process. Anyway, I may or may not be doing that on camera today. What I'm definitely going to do is, like I said, insert boards in bags. I'm going to do this pile. I have a pile of 100 in front of me. That's a good start. So I'm going to do all those. And then bag some comics. I don't think I'll sit and tear the protective thing off a bunch and then bag. I think I'll probably be removing covers while I'm bagging. So you might see some of that. I'll be able to show you the sort of drag, but worth it trade of these covers. Anyway, here we go. Oh, let me get this out of the way. Once again, look at that. Look at how beautiful. Look at how nice. Okay. Put this. Where am I going to make my pile? I'm going to put it over here. Let's see. I've got too much junk in my office, and then I just added a bunch of boxes of comics and bags and boards and things. So there's even more junk. But one of my, I don't really do resolutions, but one of my resolutions is to get all this in order. Not so much what you see behind me. That's not too bad. What's really bad that you can't see, there's a closet over here that is filled to the brim with stuff. Some of it is treasured mementos. Some of it is trash. And then there's probably a large percent that's in between those two things that I need to either donate or sell or give away or something. But the reason I need to address it, first of all, it's just ridiculous to have all that junk and stuff that I don't care about or need. I mean, if it's in a closet, obviously it's not super important to me. Generally, there's some nostalgic, historical stuff in there, but you know what I mean. Anyway, to get a lot of this crap that's on the floor out of this office, it needs to go in the closet, and there's no room in the closet. So once I get this first batch of comics shipped, probably middle of next week, then I'll be kind of pivoting towards dealing with all this. Okay. I think I'm ready to go. All right, let's just... Now, my understanding, this is how I've always done it, and I hope I'm doing it right. This is just sausage-making information. The boards that go into a bag, there is a nice glossy side, smooth side, and there is a matte, unfinished side. And the question is, which do you want touching the comic? My understanding, and this is how I've always done it, is you want the glossy side touching the comic. Tell me if I'm wrong. If there's some comic person watching this, either live or later on the replay, let me know if I'm doing it wrong. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do my best to try and talk and bag and board at the same time. DvsM 2001, The Soldier, is the fourth book in the DvsM series. It is focused on, curiously enough, a soldier. You'll remember each DvsM has a POV character, and we see a significant day in their lives. The stories are connected, but not dependent on one another. Like, you can read them in any order. You can read one and not the others. Like, it all, they're made to be standalone stories. But anyway, first one, 1975, The Man in Black, was about a man in black. The second one, 1997, The Bystander, was about Jenny, that's sort of a fan favorite one, the amateur photographer out in the desert who sees something she's not supposed to see. DvsM 1979, The Scientist. It's about Dr. Veronica Wagner, who's DvsM's kind of mother of dragons. She's the one who figures out the scientific problem of how to recreate a dinosaur. Now we have DvsM 2001, The Soldier. It's about a character known only as Sam, which is a alias. He was a black ops, you know, like a secret ops kind of guy who was fighting in the Dinosaur-Martian War. This is sort of in the tail end of hostilities. And he and 5 other guys are ordered to travel up into the White Mountains of eastern Arizona, posing as elk hunters, and track down 2 loose animals that have been creating havoc up there. The animals are 2 dinosaurs that got away from the war effort. It's all explained in the book. And so it's his eyewitness account of that particular mission he was on. I got some comments. Oh, Mr. Jim Lujan is here. Let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Hey, my good friend, I'm headed out to Cartech work on some animation. I'm going to listen to the whole show. Say some really good stuff. I will try. It looks. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jim. So, what other things can I tell you about the book? Of course, staying free of spoilers as always. It is 58 pages of story. I'm pretty sure that's right. Let me check. I will confirm that. Not that it, I mean, it's 58 or 59. Let me look here. Pages. 58 pages of story. The entire thing is like 60 something because there's an introduction, which, by the way, and this applies to all DvsMs, strongly recommend you read, even though it's just text, even though it's like doesn't seem like, well, that's not the comic part. The introductions are always very considered to set you in the right starting point for reading the story. So read the introduction. There's an introduction, there's a thank you page, there's the news article page that I always do, you know, where you see some planted story by the government to help explain away the events that you just read about. Anyway, 58 pages of story available now at my Etsy shop. I think there's a link in the description. There's also links on this account. Like I have a link tree. What else? Those are the broad strokes. In terms of specifics for this one, as usual, this is intended for mature audiences. I don't put an age on it because, I mean, everybody's different. I personally would say 15 or 16. But again, your mileage may vary. Oh, I think I hear Louis yelling. There may be a drop in, a pop in from Louis. DvsM 2001. Let's see here. There's a parental advisory or like a content advisory on the back, which they all do. It's been flagged by me, you know, for violence, for strong language, and for what I categorized as, I mean, there are lots of different ways to say it, but I wanted to call this out specifically, hate speech. I want to talk a little bit about that, what that means, like in case, you know, you see that call out and you're like, well, what am I getting into here? This is a story about a team of 6 soldiers. These are guys in the woods, hanging out, talking a lot of shit, talking like guys do, talking especially how like kind of, you know, military types would, soldier types, macho types, like, you know, these kinds of guys where a a lot of comments that, you know, you wouldn't want on your Facebook, you wouldn't want to say in a job interview or in the lunchroom at your work or whatever. But like, it's that some of those guys are that kind of guy that are saying things that are like, ugh. Those are the things that I'm like, that's what I'm referencing when I say like there's a hate speech label. Just saying kind of shitty things casually, like that. Not endorsing that. I'm not saying that soldiers talk this way, like just, you know, like blanketly. It's just some of these guys do. And I wanted, because I do care about that stuff, I'm sensitive to that stuff. I don't want to offend anybody or hurt anybody, even if inadvertently, even if it's fictional characters. And I just thought, if you care about that, if you're sensitive to that, I want to give you a heads up. But I think it's all pretty tame. Like, it's not like I mean, I shouldn't say tame. It's one of the most minimal versions of what I'm talking about. You know, it's not like it's an aspect of the plot. It's not, you know, again, just full disclosure for people. That's the reason it's on there. Let's see here. Oh, let's talk about this. Now, I had intended to do a bunch of videos, not a bunch, but like a handful of videos in the lead up to the launch, as I have done in the past. And I didn't this time. I've been kind of radio silent, which will be another topic. I didn't do videos this time in the lead up only because, without getting into personal specifics, life happened and I just didn't have the time I thought I would have. I was distracted with other things. So videos are still going to come. I'm still like looking forward to doing a few edited videos, not live streams. Some about the making of this book, some just sort of about being a creator in general, like the sorts of things I've done in the past. This hair is really, look at this. What's going on here? I mean, I do need a haircut, I admit, but it's weird how it's sticking out. Okay. But they're going to come from this point forward. So they'll be sort of like a rolling, rather than a lead up to release, they'll be sort of a rolling release with new video content. So please look forward to that. And as a part of that, since we're going to now segue to the fact I've been sort of absent, first, I want to apologize for being mostly absent. If it's any consolation for the fans, for the people who are into DvsM, work never lagged. Like, the book was always being worked on, always being drawn. And I think when you look at it, you'll see like it was a beast. This was for sure the most demanding of the DvsMs to draw by far. There were lots of things about it that were made it the most difficult one to draw. Some of it, I think, is like, I can tell you just based on the description so far, like rather than dealing with one or two main characters, I'm dealing with 6. You know, I'm dealing with a team. Rather than dealing with sort of sterile or modest interiors of buildings and offices and you know, facilities and houses, things like that. You're talking about nature, you're talking about outside, you're coming up with what a tree's got to look like, what's the ground got to look like, what's, you know, it's just more complicated drawing. And then the animals that are being hunted down, the dinosaurs that are being hunted down, are a pain to draw. Dinosaurs are always a pain to draw. Dinosaurs are almost always the most difficult thing to draw in any DvsM. more so than Martian war machines, more so than people, more so than whatever else. And then there's a bunch of things that I don't want to get into, like why it was difficult to draw, because it'd be spoilers. But suffice it to say, this one was rough. I am still, I've been done drawing it for, when did I finish drawing? I think I finished drawing in mid-November. So I have not been drawing now for 6-ish weeks. And I'm still creatively exhausted from just that process. As usual, my rate is a page a week. I was drawing 58 pages, so I was drawing for 58 weeks. And it was 58 pretty difficult pages. There were not many easy days. And usually the DvsMs, there's always, at least a handful, maybe a dozen pages that aren't that big a deal, like pretty easy to draw. It sort of feels like a little bit of a relief. There were not many of those in this one. I think you'll see it when you read the book. Every page is like, that would suck to draw. It's not like it was bad. It's not like it was a slog. I mean, I do enjoy drawing and I enjoy making these books. But they're demanding. This one was demanding, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Anyway, why was I talking about this? Let's see here. Oh, work has been happening even though I've been quiet. Why have I been quiet? That is a good question. Now, part of it, and this might be some of our therapy session today, just send me your bill after your invoice afterward. Some of it is busyness. Some of it was like, this was kind of a hectic year and I had this especially demanding comic to draw and other stuff going on. And it was like, just to keep my head above water, the idea of like, and I should try to be getting out there and doing live streams and, reminding people I'm alive was just like too much. Like, it was just one more thing. And it's like, I just can't. Like, if I want to do all these, keep on top of all these other things, something's got to give. And, it's going to be that. It's going to be making videos and live streaming. But that really isn't an answer. I mean, it's on its way to an answer. Like, I can say that, and it can be true. But then the question is, well, why is that the thing that's like the thing that's going to give? Like, why is that the thing that goes by the wayside? And that, I think, is the thing I've been trying to think about the past few months, which is, why am I so bad and unmotivated and uninspired when it comes to actually selling the thing that I work so hard to make? What's my problem? Like, I love making it. Making is the easiest thing in the world. For me, it's easier to make it than to not make comics, in a way. In all ways, maybe. Like, I mean, I think that's, the idea of just like, oh, I'll just, retire from creative life and not do anything. And I'll, do whatever non-creatives do. I'll watch Netflix all the time and putter around the house and make myself a list of fix-it things. And, like, I don't know. I can't even, like, that sounds harder to me. Like, and more impossible to me. And it's definitely more unpleasant than working on something, even if it was just like, a model of a World War II battleship. Like, I need a thing. I need something to like do. And it's not an escapist thing. It's not like an ADHD thing. It's nothing like that. It's just like the way my brain works, like I just need to be engaged in something. It's hard for me to just passively be content. I think even though I love movies, I think it's why in a way I've always kind of preferred video games, because I'm engaged. Like I have to do something. I have to constantly be like thinking and like making decisions, and like that's just and reading's always been more interesting to me. Drawing, of course, I mean that's what we're talking about, drawing and writing. Playing with Play-Doh, playing with Legos, like I've never been just a sit and watch cartoons kid. Like I was not that kid. And like in high school, I was never just a like sit and watch TV all night after school. Like I was probably playing video games and writing mostly, and some drawing. And then in college, like when I wasn't out with friends or studying or in classes, I was working really hard to try and write a novel. So I was doing that with my time. Like this has always just been a part of my life. Anyway, the point is the making part is easy and never lags. The only time I'm not making something is when I need a break from making something, like an actual, like I need a breather. I need to kind of sit and regather my strength and let an idea mature in my brain and then like make another thing. That's the only time there's downtime, really. The promoting, I don't know why I pronounced it like that. The promoting, the live streaming, and then this definitely extends to like going on other people's shows to promote and going to conventions and playing Carnival Barker at a convention. Like, not just, I mean, I'm not one of those guys that's sitting there on my phone ignoring customers the whole time. I do okay at conventions. I sell books. I wouldn't do them if I wasn't selling books. But I'm also not like hard selling people. I'm not like, hey, you like comics? Hey. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not engaging every person that walks by. I'm not trying to like suck people in. I'm not working real hard to make a sale. Like I've always felt, this is a conversation I've had, with a bunch of my creative friends. If I feel like I have to work for a sale, like I don't want that sale. And it's not because I don't want to work. It's because I don't want to talk you into buying a book, because I don't want it to just end up in a to read pile. Like I want you to be intrigued. I want you to be interested. I want to tell you what it's about and tell you why I made it. And, you can get to know me and you can get to know the book. And if then after all that, you're like, yeah, I want to try that out. It's like, cool. Like I will happily sell you a book. But I don't want to be like with someone who's like, gosh, man, I don't know. It's like, I'm not going to woo you. I'm not going to like persuade you to, like that's, and I think that's part of this whole thing we're talking about. Like, why am I bad at the live stream? Why am I not like, hard selling? Not that I think that's the goal, is to hard sell your stuff, but why am I less motivated to do that? Why has it always been for me like, I want to do this part, but not that part? And let's see how I'm going to check on let's see. Yeah, I mean, of course, and I think we've seen, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to call anybody out. Everyone's on their own journey. But I think we've all seen people who it feels like they've got this the other way around. Like they're out there hawking, selling, and they don't really have, like, it seems like that's more of the thing than actually doing the thing, which is completely backwards to me. I don't understand. I don't want to be comic personality, I want to make comics. And like, to make it not a totally narcissistic exercise in just like, or this bizarre like lunatic in his apartment just filling out his journals and no one ever sees them experience, like, yeah, I do want to do that final part of, now let's put it out there and, you know, hope that it finds people who respond to it, who enjoy it. I mean, I do think that's an important part of the process. I'm not so hardcore that I'm like, I don't give a shit about the audience. I don't give a shit if anybody reads it or likes it, whatever, man. I'm all about making my art. Like, it's not, I mean, I'm definitely on that end of the spectrum, but I am delighted that people like DvsM. I am grateful and thankful every time someone buys a copy. And I do genuinely want it to connect to people. I want people, you know, I'm always hoping like it lands and people like read it and they're like, they have an experience with it, like you do with any good or great art. Like that's always the goal for me. Like the audience is in my calculation, but as soon as it starts to feel a little like the thing I've said before, like, are you an artist or are you a merchant? As soon as it starts to feel a little merchanty, a little too merchanty, like I just can't. I just, it spoils it for me. There's a podcast I was just listening to the other day that talked a little bit about this, but before I get to that, I see there's more chats. How is the crafted video project going? There's some like that are in the works. Look at this again. This, what is going on with this crazy? I've got a crazy colic on the side. Anyway, they're coming. They're coming. Yeah, I like this hat too. I hadn't worn it for years. I used to wear it a lot. Probably about 10 or 15 years ago. And I replaced it, I don't have it handy, replaced it with my just sort of normal gray-green hat with no logo on it. This one got pulled out for a secret reason, which people who read the latest DvsM will probably see put together. But, you know, when I was wearing it again, I was like, I remembered I really liked it. So we got it. Anyway, I was listening to a podcast recently, Billy Corgan's podcast. Billy Corgan, the front man for Smashing Pumpkins, one of my favorite bands of all time. Certainly a top 10 favorite band of all time for me. He was talking to Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, which I have to admit, I almost said like this might affect my cred, but I have no music cred. I'm mostly unfamiliar with Rage Against the Machine. Like it was just, I don't know, it just passed me by or escaped me somehow. It just wasn't something I listened to. Anyway, but Billy Corgan was interviewing Tom Morello, and they were talking about how Gen X, of which I'm a member, hasn't had its second act. This was the framing. And how, like, that kind of 90s music movement that saw like grunge and then like however you would classify like Rage and Tool and all these other bands. Like how, even though that made a huge impact at the time, it didn't quite have its like second act like a lot of other music phenomenons have. Now, some of you, the tasteless wrong people among you, might say it's because, well, that music was trash and that's why it didn't come back. That's not the correct answer. And actually, it wasn't specifically about music. It was about Gen X culture in general. Like, why hasn't there been like a second wave of Gen X stuff, a second life of Gen X stuff? And Morello's diagnosis was that Gen X at its heart has kind of, he suffers from what he described as punk guilt, where there's this, now this is my word, not his, maybe overdeveloped attitude of to be successful, to be popular, to have an audience, to like any of that stuff, creates a lot of hand wringing in the Gen Xers, where it's like, you know, they just don't know how they feel about it. And his example was like, you know, there's that point where, you know, Soundgarden or Nirvana or Pearl Jam or whoever, which have these like real, you know, punk streaks in them, at least, you know, punk in their ancestry. Like they're playing in arenas, sold out arenas that like Poison was in 5 years before, and how that was extremely difficult to just rationalize, to just figure like, ugh, like there's that reaction that like, like I don't want. And Billy Corgan shared like a hilarious story where he was like, it was at some point of the, you know, the peak of Smashing Pumpkins, where he was so like kind of weirdly conflicted about it. He was talking about all these shows he just tanked, where they would start one of their hits and then immediately start playing it completely differently than it was on the album. Like songs that were like months or only a few years old is like, now let's just do it totally different. Let's just kind of piss off the crowd. And it would devolve into this like spoken word thing where he's like lecturing middle America about like, you know, basically the way they were laughing about it was like, how dare you like me? Now, I don't think that's precisely what goes on with me in my demented head, but I found a lot of it sort of like hitting close to home, at least in this very basic sense. This weird, emotionally conflicted feeling about like the where I have clarity is like, I want to make my art. I want to make it exactly in the way that I want to make it. I'm not going to, you know, soften any edges. I'm not going to worry about what's going to get an audience. I'm not going to like, I'm going to have a very pure artistic creator experience in making my thing. And I want to get it out there, but I don't want to try too hard to get it out there. Now I'm saying, as I say this, I recognize this is faulty thinking. I get it. I get it. This is just how I feel, which is not thinking. Trying too hard to get it out there somehow corrupts the experience, somehow diminishes the experience, somehow makes it dirty, somehow like there's just something about it that just doesn't sit right. Now, is it because I'm Gen X? Is it because I kind of think about things the same way as Billy Corgan and Tom Morello? I don't know. I doubt it. Like I would like to think that, because that's probably the most acceptable version of this sort of defective feeling about it. I think what's more likely is that, especially, and then here's the truth part. Here's the part where you can bill me for the therapy. I think what's more likely is DvsM, which this might be strange for people who read it, is actually deeply personal. And as I get better at making these books and more experienced making these books, I feel more and more intensely about each one. And each one, in a way, is more personal. It's like each one is more personal than the last. Therefore, whichever the current book is, feels extremely personal, like as personal as I could have made it. Now, that's not like you're reading and it's like, oh, this is like clearly Gary's autobiography. Like it's, you know, but there's an emotional truth in it, in all of these, that I think as I get better and better at being an artist, makes it more and more scary and makes me feel more and more vulnerable as the books come out, coupled with, knock on wood, I don't know if this is real wood, the fact that my audience gets bigger and bigger. So like it's getting more and more scary for me, more and more emotionally fraught. Meanwhile, in front of a larger and larger crowd. And I think, like, while I would like to say, like, yeah, the reason I'm feeling this way is because I'm exactly like, you know, Rage Against the Machine. Like, again, I would like to say that. I'm not convinced that's it. There might be a pinch of that in there. There might be a pinch of like Gen X nonconformity in there. I think it's more likely that it's just become scarier for me. When I put out 75, I did not expect or have any readers. Like it was just me following through on a promise I made to myself that I want to make a comic and put it out. So it wasn't scary. I can tell you last night, like I put the Etsy listing up, I put the trailer up, I got everything set up and ready to go. I made my posts on Facebook and Instagram. Went to bed, watched the finale of Stranger Things, and went to bed. Barely slept. Had anxiety dreams all night. I can very honestly tell you, while I love making the comics and I'm proud of it, and I am in a way excited for people to see it, the actual like go live experience of like, this is for sale now, is kind of miserable for me. And that's why I'm inclined to think like, this isn't punk rock. This is feeling anxious and vulnerable. Now, putting a positive spin on this, I believe that's a good indicator that I did my work as an artist. That if you're putting out work that you don't give a shit about, you don't care what anybody thinks about it, you don't care if anybody responds to it, it's just a thing you did, you're not going to be emotionally, you know, discombobulated. You're not going to be distressed and having anxiety dreams because, you know, you made a logo for us, you know, a landscaper. Like, who cares? Whatever. Cash your paycheck and move on with your life. The fact that this is increasingly difficult for me and that I'm increasingly contemplative about it, I'm taking to mean, and I do think this is fair, that I'm doing the work and I'm going far enough and I'm saying things that feel real to me, that feel true, that I'm being authentic. And I'm being, if not fearless in the release, fearless in the creative act, which is the more important place to be fearless, I think. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Keep hearing Ramon songs and ads. The irony of the father's punk being used to pimp big farm electric cars. It is rough. Yeah, no kidding. I don't even know. Yeah. It's my black guy holding glass shirt. Let's see here. Isn't creating in spite of feeling anxiety and vulnerability the most punk rock? I don't know. I think I can't opine on that, but I do believe very, very deeply that the only commandment for an artist, the one commandment for any creative, is to be, and when I say when I say creative, I don't mean like an illustrator. I'm not, by the way, I'm not like doing this with Illustrator. My day job is basically illustration. But I mean like an actual, like an artistic creative, someone who is making art, not just, you know, however you would make the distinction between that and an illustrator or a sign painter, or someone where that it's not that it's not art, but you know what I mean. Like there's no or very little expression or message in it. There's nothing in particular being said. Okay. The only commandment for a creative, someone who's making art with a capital A, is to be true to yourself. And if true to yourself is, I don't know, Tomb Raider fan fiction, okay, like that, as long as you're being true to yourself, like don't pretend to be something else. But I think you need to be authentic. You need to be mercilessly real with yourself in your art, I think. And to me, and I don't know if this is a perfect rule of thumb, but it's not a bad one. A good way, like to me, a good litmus test is like, how do I know I was being authentic? How do I know I was being real? How do I know I was saying something, personal or meaningful to me, or real to me, or complicated to me, or whatever, something. How do I know that I left enough on the field? It's if you're feeling anxiety and vulnerability. That's my take. That's a good, that's an indicator, because you wouldn't be feeling it otherwise. So, like I said, I'm treating this emotionally complicated zone as, at the very least, proof that I did the work. And I also know from past launches, this will pass, but there's this anxious period where I'm packing up books. Like I get this initial wave of orders. And I'm packing up books, and I have a few giant trips to the post office. And then there's like that lag where you're waiting for them to find their way to their new owners. And then the feedback starts trickling in. Sometimes you don't get it. Most of the time, actually, you don't get it, because understandably, like I have to admit, I've read, who knows how many comic books. How often have I reached out to the creator and told them what I thought about it? A few times, like generally not often, So most of the time you don't hear anything. And you only maybe evidence that like it went okay is like the little Etsy thing saying like return buyer. Like that's pretty much all you have to go on. Or like when you're at a convention, I get this a fair amount. I'm always like shocked and flattered when like someone comes up and they're like, and you recognize them. It's funny how you recognize them and remember, like, you've sold something to this person before, and they're looking to see like if you've got anything new. Like that's always a good feeling that something worked. Like it didn't end up in the to read pile forever. They must have read it eventually, because why would they come and get another one? But some people do reach out, mostly people but sometimes just fans, and they'll mention something they liked about it, and that helps. And this isn't fishing, and this is not like putting that out there. I'm just saying, like, just very honestly, like that snaps you out of it. At least me, that snaps me out of it. that kind of strange feeling of like, ugh, I made this thing and now it's out there and ugh, you know, it's just like the weird feeling of that. Like once it lands with, even if it's just like a couple people, even if it's just a couple people who are like, oh my God, I loved this part, or this was crazy, or oh my God, can't wait for the next one, whatever. It's like, okay, I survived. And, you know, then you can just go back to your being neurotic about other things, which I would. Anyway, so the too long didn't read, too long didn't watch. The reason there haven't been many videos in the past 6 months, partly because I've been busy and barely keeping my head above water, and I had an especially demanding DvsM to draw for you guys and for myself, but you know. But probably the larger reason is just, you know, having trouble with that angle of it, having trouble with that end of the process, which is selling it, selling myself, getting it out there, getting me out there, all of that. The other thing is, and this is, I think, very natural, and actually it's mostly about you guys. There is an element of feeling like I've kind of said everything I want to say about me, and it's not like, not out of a privacy thing, but just out of like, do you guys need or want another video of me saying like, well, spent another week drawing? Like, do you need another video of me explaining like, you know, how I do thumbnails? Like, I don't know. I this isn't like a rhetorical question. Like, but there's this feeling of like, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to make content for content's sake. I don't need to have like a weekly video. I don't know if I have enough to talk about for a weekly video. Like, I don't know what I think it would either be boring or I would just be saying something I said in 4 other videos. And I think now at this point, I've been doing YouTube videos for DvsM since 2018, something like that. So what, we're coming up on 8 years. 8 years of DvsM. It's getting to a point where most of the things I could say about making DvsMs, I've said. You know, and I know people aren't going to go back and like watch, you know, 4-year-old videos of me. So maybe there's an argument of like, yeah, but you know, there's always new people showing up and people who don't want to watch old content, and like, so repeat yourself, whatever. But that's another, like, you know, where I feel this conflict of like that's part of it, is part of what made it difficult for me to get videos out this time. Like, I knew I wanted to do videos to let people know a new book is done, and you know, tell people a little bit about it, tell people about what's new. But I was talking about it a lot with Jim Lujan, who was here earlier. Like, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, I've kind of said all the things, you know, and like, what more can I say about making a DvsM? Part of it, maybe you guys can help me this year. Part of it is it's hard for me to look at me from an audience side. So like, I don't know what would be interesting to you. I don't know what you would want to hear about. I don't know what you'd care about, or what is like, no, go ahead and repeat yourself. Like, it's always interesting. Or like, oh no, you've never talked about this. I would like to hear about this. Like, that's kind of where I get stuck. And I don't know, like, well, I'm happy to either live stream or, you know, record a video, but like, about what? Like, what do you want? Like, Like, I'm happy to talk about any of it, but I don't know, you know. Obviously, there's a lot of paralysis by analysis going on my side. Okay, let's see here. Place an order for your latest. Oh, thank you very much, John. I hope it's been a while. We haven't seen. I'm trying to remember. The last time we hung out, was it when we went to that Starfighter arcade or something? It's been too long. Or was it Dr. Sleep? I don't remember. It's been a while. It's been too long in any case. I hope you're doing good. We ought to try and get together, grab Kevin, and have a little bit of a reunion. Happy New Year. Hope you're well. Tried reaching out to a mutual friend a few times last week and never heard back from him. Miss you guys. Yeah, that's a bummer. No, let's it's been too long. Let's figure something out. Reach out to me on Facebook. We're still on you're still on Facebook, right? Or whatever, you know. Reach out. We'll get something. We'll do something. But it's good to hear from you, and I appreciate you picking up a book. Okay. I struggle with repeating content too. I figure two things. Okay, let's see here. Corey Kerr weighing in. The two things. New people, old content, etc. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like no matter how huge a fan I am of a channel, a YouTube channel, I watch a lot of YouTube. Or at least I have YouTube running a lot. It's usually while I'm working, like I'll have something playing. Even if I love a channel, love a content maker, it's pretty unusual. It's not unheard of, but it's pretty unusual I want to watch anything older than a month old. Like, I kind of want to see like their whatever the latest stuff is. Like, I'm not going to dig back, like scroll down and like watch something from a few years ago, you know, unless it's a very specific topic that I'm very interested in. Or if there's a new video that references, like, if you're interested in this, you should check out, and, you know, when they pop up, like that kind of stuff. But otherwise, like, I'm not going to go and just dig through, excavate the archaeology of someone's YouTube content. So that's fair. I'm a different person from a year ago. Yeah. And actually, you know, at least one of the videos that will be coming out that's something I've been thinking a lot about. And today's chat sort of is touching on that, like how I've changed as a creative from the beginning. Because again, it's been now about 8 years. So not only have I changed, just like we all do, I feel like my personal change is probably less dramatic than my comic creator of evolution, where I went from having never put out a comic before, and kind of figuring it out, like, this is, I guess, how I would do it, and like, you know, making it, just putting it out there, and just not really knowing what I was doing, not really caring if I knew what I was doing, and not, you know, like my motivations, I don't want to undermine too much of this future video, but my motivations for making have totally changed. How I feel in the process of making has totally changed. How I feel about promoting it has totally changed. Like, I think I was better about promotion. I know I was better about promotion early on. That just, you know, I've just changed. I think in mostly good, actually overwhelmingly good, but a few, I'm not going to say bad, but complicating ways, you know? For example, like this, what we're talking about. Like, okay, so you're making these things, like, are you doing what you can for people to find it? Like, art is important, right? Many voices in art are important, right? Some people are dying to see the thing you made, right? Like, it's going to they're going to respond to it. It's going to, like, you know, unlock something in them, might inspire them to make something, like whatever. You want to do that, right? But it's just this like, yeah, you're right, I should, you know, and then not doing it. I do. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to promise, and I'm not interested in this, saying like, in lieu of all this, there's going to be weekly live streams going forward in 2026, effective immediately. We're not doing that. But what I do need to do, and this is something I've been thinking about for a few months now, and it almost came up on the Christmas recording for Making Comics, because it was, if you, by the way, check out Making Comics, the podcast, Making Comics, with Scott Lost and Keith Foster. It's great if you're into making comics in any way, being an indie, drawing, whatever, like, you'll love it. It's right up your alley. I'm not just saying it because I'm friendly with those guys. It is the best indie comic podcast I've ever heard. Like, none of the others I've listened to even come close. Like, it's, I think, the most useful, most helpful in feeling like you're part of a community, and the best hosts. And I'm not just saying that because they're my buds. Like, I mean it. Anyway, for the Christmas episode, which they always generously have me participate in, there's a naughty and nice thing for, we all have to say like a nice thing that happened in the year, and a naughty is in like a lesson, like something that you know, that came up over the year that you want to work on, or you learn something from, or whatever. What was very close to my naughty lesson was, this is on getting back to the topic, I need to get better at talking about my work and getting it out there. But I've got to find a way to do it that I can embrace. That the status quo for the last year, it's no good. And doing like what other people do, again, like weekly live streams, or traveling all over the Southwest to every con, or like all that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm not doing that. Like, for all sorts of different reasons, I'm not doing those things. I'm not, and there's a lot of things that I'm very public about, I just don't believe in, and I don't do. I'm not going to be doing live draws, you know, where I have the camera pointed at my thing when I'm doing a page. I'm not going to, you know, take every bit of content I make and part it out into weird little social media appropriate chunks to like promote every goddamn thing I'm doing, and, you know, make a new hobby of mine just hawking my wares. Like, I'm not doing that. But I got to come up with something. I got to come up with something that checks the box, like that. It's like, yes, I'm doing what I can to share my work. But again, in a way that I can embrace, that I can feel good about, and God forbid that I can be excited or enthusiastic to do. Like, that's the dream. The dream would be, this thing helps people learn about me and my work, and I enjoy doing it. And I still feel like, oh, there's unexplored territory in this. I enjoy doing this, by the way. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I don't want you to think that anything I've done on this YouTube channel has been like this kind of weird chore slog for me. That is please don't take that as what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's just gotten to a point where it's like, I feel like I'm repeating myself. I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling like, I feel like in a way like I want something new. I want some new way to do this, and I don't know what it is yet. But I am invested in finding it, because DvsM, as much as anything else in my life, is my life. And I'm 4 books into a 6-book series. I'm already cooking the next one, even though this one's not even, no one's even gotten their own copy yet of this one. I'm already thinking about the next. And because I'm closing in on a finale, look at this, just in this time we've been talking. Thank you for keeping me distracted enough to be focused, which sounds paradoxical, but you understand what I mean. I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about, what was I saying? Doesn't matter. I just need to, like everything else, just like I did with this book, I need to find my own way through the forest. Oh, thank you, John. DvsM will happen. That's not any of my discontent or frustration or you know, kind of being lost in the woods. DvsM is going to be seen through, and not because of some weird Ahabian, you know, quest, because I love doing it and I feel strongly about it. And I want to have this finished work of these 6 books. Like, that's going to happen regardless. What I need to figure out is, like, am I also serving that other part of it, which is getting your work out there? The one that I always mix up his first name, and now I'm afraid, like, I have his first name right, but I'm going to say it wrong because I always doubt myself. Henry. Yes, I knew it. I should have trusted myself. Okay. Jim Lujan and I talk a lot about, actually, in the context of all this, Henry, I don't know if his last name, I forgot how it's pronounced. I don't know if it's Darger or Darger. I don't know if it's a hard G. There's a documentary about him. If you're any kind of creative, I encourage you to seek it out. Henry Darger. We're going to say it's a hard G. Could be Darger. Henry Darger. Henry was, I think, a janitor or something. He lived alone. Became an older man, eventually died. When they went in to clean out his apartment, they found that he had been toiling away at this kind of graphic novel for decades. I think it was thousands of pages long. It was this really bizarre kind of fairy tale, strange, magical, mystical, sprawling epic. Again, thousands of pages. No one knew this guy was working on it. Now, there's a little bit of me that admires that admires that he was so pure. This is, again, going back to, like, punk guilt. So pure in his intention that no one needed to know about it. That he could spend, and I don't remember how long, but let's just say like 30 years working on this, like, epic, ridiculous graphic novel that didn't even matter if anybody ever knew it existed or read it. Okay. Now, you don't know what he was really thinking. Maybe he imagined someday, like, I'm actually going to get all this together and publish it, and I'm going to shock the world with this 10,000 page graphic novel I've been chipping away at. But maybe that was also never part of it. Maybe it was just like, I just like making this thing. Maybe it's the analogy that I use often of, like, the guy in his basement working on his model railroad. Has nothing to do with audience. Pure love of the game. Okay. On some level, I really admire that. But on the other, and this is how Jim and I usually talk about it, it feels like a cautionary tale. It feels like if you're too punk, this is where you end up. You end up with this kind of weird navel gazing. It's just about me. The audience doesn't matter. And there is a kind of a perversity in, I'm making a thing that by its very nature is meant to be enjoyed by an audience, even if it's an audience of one, but I'm never doing that. It's like sitting in your apartment and perfecting your beef Wellington, and every time it's done, just like saran wrapping it up and putting it in the freezer. No one gets to taste. Like there is something a little, maybe not even a little, I'm going to just say a little insane about that. There is a little deranged. Like to make something that is, again, almost by its nature, by definition, for somebody and not give it to somebody. So that's where I'm like approaching it, even though I'm so conflicted about all this and don't know how to approach it. I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at PR. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to go about it. I don't know how to come up with a way that like makes me excited to do it. And yet I know it's important because you don't want to be Henry Darger. And I don't want to be Henry Darger. I want people to read and enjoy DvsM. People have been reading and enjoying DvsM for like 8 years now. And it actually, because I'm not Henry Darger, it's what keeps me doing it. Because I wouldn't be doing it if, not only if I just wasn't intending to release them, but if I was selling like 3 copies, you know, or something like that. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't even know if that's true. Because if there were 3 people who were like, this really spoke to me, this said things that I've always known, but I didn't know how to say. This is like, if you had people who really had like an experience with it, like maybe I would keep doing it. But the point is, like, that's what, you know, a comic is to be read. Like you put that out. If I didn't want to deal with an audience at all, I would do something that didn't require an audience. Carpentry or something, making yourself chairs. I don't know. Like, you know, then it's like, doesn't matter. I do care about that. I'm just not good at it. And I want to be better at it this year. This is maybe my accountability declaration. Let's see here. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. And I saw your order and I appreciate it. I'm going to be making a trip to the post office with the first initial wave, the initial batch, Monday. So it shouldn't take that long to get to you. But much appreciated. And I appreciated your posting and sharing too, by the way. It means a lot to me. Okay. I've bagged and boarded 100. Well, I've bagged boards 100 times. Now I'm going to switch to tearing the protective covers off and bagging those. So how long have we been streaming? 113. I'll at least do some of these while we're on. And this probably concludes the artist angst section of the live stream. Thank God, right? Move some comics over to my pile here. Okay. So what else is going on? Hold on. I'm getting my pile of comics stacked in a way where they're not going to slide off my desk. Let's see here. I hate promoting my stuff, hate it so much that I become self-depreciating, which is dishonest because I know I'm creating something very good. Yeah, it's hard for me to talk up my own work. Even if I feel good about it, even if I think like, you know, I think there's something here. That's the kind of modest comment you'll get from me is, I think I've got something here. If you hear me say, I think I've got something here, like I'm very excited about it. Oh, wait, do we have another? Yes, actually, Corey, I sent a few books over to Paul at the Paul Box, and it was a very good experience. So if you're looking to do a little easy getting your stuff out there, I recommend it. So what else is going on? As I said, this is the general portion. Watched the finale of Stranger Things last night. I want to be careful here. First of all, I'm not going to get into depth about this. There's not going to be any spoilers. Why am I having? Oh, I'm clipping. Full disclosure. I watched the first season of Stranger Things very enthusiastically. Loved it. Started the second season. Didn't grab me the same way. Like, I think I watched like 2 episodes and was like, it wasn't even that it was bad. It was just, this is something I've talked a lot about with, in general, but with Keith Foster, which is, there are things we can all think about. If you sit and think about it, you can think of it. Whether it's music, whether it's comics, whether it's movies, whatever, where you saw it, you enjoyed it, you liked it, and that was enough. And even though there's more of it, you're good. For example, in my music collection, I have albums that I loved, maybe some of my favorite albums of all time. That artist probably made other things. I've never checked it out. It was like, this is good. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with what this person is doing, and I don't need any more. This came, or like movies where there were sequels. I'm good. That movie was great. I don't need to see more. One example of that, just recently, I've been thinking about it. I enjoyed Avatar. Like, Avatar was good. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed. I mean, the visual spectacle was worth it. That's the reason to go to see that movie. Have not seen either of the sequels. Like, it was enough. One Avatar was enough. I had a good time. I don't need more. It came up with Keith Foster in that sometimes you have this experience at conventions where someone will come to your table. It's kind of funny. These are like, I think anyone who's done conventions, plural, has probably had this funny experience. Someone will come up to your table and be like, oh, yeah, you're that guy. You do this thing. I got your book last year or whatever. It was awesome. I loved it. And then you say, great, I've got a new one. If you liked that one, get ready for this one, buddy. And they're like, cool. And they leave. They don't get whatever the new book is. And it's like, how do you make sense of this? How do you explain this? And I think it's exactly what I've been talking about. You read the book, you liked the book. It wasn't maybe necessarily your thing. So that was enough. Like, thank you. Like, I'm glad I tried borscht. And it was good. And I've never ordered it again. It's that kind of thing, you know? It's like, I'm glad I tried beef marrow. I enjoyed it. I'm not constantly like, I got to get myself some more beef marrow. Anyway, point, Stranger Things is a little bit like that for me, where I watched the first season, I enjoyed it a lot, and I guess that was enough for me. I didn't feel the need to like, oh, I gotta watch a lot more Stranger Things. So I watched a couple episodes of the second season, saw none of the third and fourth season, and then parachuted in in this latest social media blitz of like Stranger Things is ending. You gotta watch Stranger Things. Parachuted in to watch like the last few episodes of season 5 of Stranger Things. That's my disclaimer. It's like I am not a super fan, and maybe the finale would have worked better for me had I been watching religiously, you know, every season. You know, that was my reaction. It was kind of like I didn't love it, but I'm clearly not the audience. I did think this, and I think this is probably no matter how much Stranger Things you've watched. And I saw some memes that seemed to agree. I did start to get a little impatient with stakes are high. We got to get from A to B to keep the thing from happening or to save ourselves or whatever. Hurry, hurry. Don't stop. Move. And then wait. Let's stop and have a big conversation about your feelings. You know, there were a couple times like that where it took me out of it, where I was like, I thought we were trying to get home, or I thought we were worried about the monsters. And like now we're just talking about like, hold up. Quick family conference, guys. That kind of like, I feel like even if you love that show, even you probably were like, it's kind of awkward, but otherwise there were other things I liked. Like it's sappy as hell, but that's kind of the show, right? Like it's kind of got that. Like I think you need, if you're gonna do a Stranger Things, like it has to be a little sappy. And then this is not on the show. This is again on me for not having watched it. There was a lot of it that was I was absolutely lost. Like, how does this work? Or like just the basic, like the rules of this world. Like, what are they doing? Why do they have to do that? This person's magic now? Like, I just confused. That's not, again, not on the show. That's on like me jumping into a Marvel movie or something, having not watched the previous 15 and being like, wait, who's this guy? Like, there's a little bit of that. Anyway, it's not a negative review. It's just like, whatever. Like, it was fine. What I enjoyed a lot more was Death by Lightning, which is also on Netflix. Very limited bite-sized series. It was like 4 episodes, I think, about the assassination of President Garfield by an utter lunatic. What is that guy's name? Maybe it's not even worth remembering because why promote him? But the actor who plays him, I want to get that right. He was in a Pride and Prejudice, I think. Let's see here. Death by Lightning. Matthew McFadden, I think that's how you say his name, plays the assassin, this mentally deranged. And I was so impressed by the job he did. He's a guy, like, just the way he sits there and blinks and says totally innocuous things, your spider sense goes off the charts of like, this guy's crazy. Like, watch this dude. Like, he did such a good job. Such a good job. Like, he made that show. There were lots of good things about that show, but he made it. Highly recommend that. Also recommend Pluribus. Which I liked a lot. It didn't blow my mind, but I liked it a lot. And that's another one, kind of like Death by Lightning being carried by McFadden, if that's how you say his name. Pluribus is carried mostly. There's some great performances in it. Great performances. But that show is all about, is it Rhea, I think, Seahorn, who's so good. She makes that show. She really, really makes that show. I mean, it's a good show anyway, but boy, she's what pushes it into like, probably you should see that if you're went in not really knowing anything other than Vince Gilligan's latest. That's all I knew about it. Worth it. Totally worth it if you have Apple. Let's see if there's any aside from episodes here and there. Season 1, 4 were astounding. 5 was good with some pacing issues. The last scene hit me right. There you go. Okay. Okay. What else is going on? On Monday, just to do a little Making Comics promotion, which is not entirely selfless because I'll be on it. Monday, the newest Making Comics episode, wherever podcasts are available, will be part 2 of the 2025 roundup, where we all name our bests of, our favorites from the year. And that's the money one. We did part 1 last week. Part 2 is going to come out Monday, and that's going to have what you're probably most interested in, being a comic podcast, our favorite comics of 2025, favorite comic artists 2025, comic writers of 2025, among other categories. So that'll be fun for me to listen back to, because we were a little sauced when we were recording those, but also I think it'll be fun for the audience. Important disclaimer: it's comics and artists and writers we encountered in 2025. So they may not be new. It might just be like we first encountered it in 2025. So some of it might be like, well, that came out in 2023. Maybe, I don't know. But it's just like, it was the first time we came across it. So that's how it works. Let's see here. Just arrived at the coffee shop. Can you go 2 more hours? I can at least go. I think I at least want to bag this pile of books in front of me. Yeah, I can at least, I'm thinking another half hour at least is going to happen. What else? What have you guys watched? Is there something I guess on that note of the Making Comics note, what was your favorite movie of 2025 that you saw? Your favorite TV show? Your favorite comic? Like, give me a tip. Give me something I need to watch or read or check out. I don't know if this I'm probably bagging this slower than some would. The reason I'm doing it, though, I'll show you. First of all, I want it to be very nice and neat and tidy. Like, these are not cheap books. They're fat books, so they justify, I think, the higher price. But I also, because you're paying more, I want to make sure it's like you're getting a nice premium, well-packaged product. But the other thing is, I want to show you what these look like before they're bagged. Because they're fat books, you see this? That's not ideal. Now, the solution when you're dealing with a fat book like this is to do perfect binding, where you have the square, it's a little bit more money, and I have not done perfect binding for any of the books so far, and I don't really want to mix up the form factor mid-series. So I'm sticking with saddle stitched, which is what this is called. Saddle stitched, for the unfamiliar, the unindoctrinated, is where it's just like big wide pages, staples in the middle, and like folded. That's that. But because you've got this kind of effect, when I'm bagging them, I'm like pushing them flat and pulling the flap really tight. So it like, and that will kind of eventually, you can flatten this out. Like if you kind of keep it like this long enough, or some like what I've sometimes done is like when, you know, I'm not going to be bagging them right away and I want to get going on flattening them out. Like heavy book, stack of comics, big heavy book on top, and just let them kind of compress a little. Anyway, so this is, I'm being a little slow and methodical with this because I'm stuffing a book in and then like pulling this really tight to like make sure it's holding it flat. But let's see here. I've heard The Diplomat is good. And that's Kerry Russell, right? Which, by the way, another Kerry Russell, I've always heard great things about The Americans, which I never read or watched. But apparently I should. And then, yeah. Capital P, capital H. Molly was kind enough to lend her likeness to a character in DvsM 1997, The Bystander. She was the visual inspiration for Cynthia, the person interviewing Jenny about how she ended up being arrested and what Jenny claims to have seen in a canyon on the Navajo res up in northern Arizona. And now her husband, Micah, I went to NAU with both of them. He is playing a character, or, you know, the visual inspiration for a character in this latest one, nicknamed Patty. He's supposed to be like a Boston Irish guy. The initial, and I didn't stray too far from this, my initial concept for Patty was like a Bill Burr type, like that kind of guy, is one of the soldiers in this 6-man team. And Micah, it just so happens that Patty looks a lot like Micah. So I hope he's excited to make his DvsM debut. And now they both have this bizarre thing in common. They both were cast members, so to speak, in the DvsM saga. I don't know if Cynthia ever would have met Patty. I'm thinking no. Well, no, wait, let me think about this. I'm thinking about timelines. It's possible. It's possible. Molly, if you want to do some fan fiction about Cynthia meeting Patty, I think the canon allows it. It's possible they could have crossed paths. I don't know what they would think about each other, but they might have crossed paths. No, but I'm intrigued. Talking about how I got to get my office in order. Basically, and that, you know, the office in order is part of a larger, I have to admit, when I'm drawing a book, which takes a lot of time, normal adulting tends to suffer. My bathroom, it was bad. It was embarrassing, really embarrassing. Now it took care of that. As soon as like the book was drawn and it's like, all right, I'm finished. Now I can actually ease back into normal life. Cleaned the bathroom top to bottom. So there's that. But there's a lot of things like that it's like, ugh, this really, I just sort of wasn't doing this, wasn't staying on top of this. But another thing that, and I was so good for most of the drawing of this book, but around November I fell, and like that close, like for 12 months, 13 months, I was good. But then the last month or two of drawing fell off the gym routine to the point where now it's like, it's not like, oh, I've missed a couple weeks, like I can get back. No, I've missed like 6 weeks or something, and it's basically like starting over now with the habit. That needs to happen. The office needs to get sorted out. There's a few other things like that. But it's like, I just wasn't doing this because I was just too busy. And even when I wasn't busy, even when I wasn't actively drawing, you're zapped, you're exhausted. Like you work all day, your day job, you come home and draw for a few hours. So it's like, yeah, I mean, could I have been wiping down a counter in my bathroom? I could have, but I just can't. It just. So all that stuff, like there's stuff in the front yard I want to do in the planter. There's a long list of things that's like I just wasn't doing because I was just overwhelmed trying to get a book done. That actually kind of brings me to another comic topic that I thought about for video, and I don't think it's video worthy in terms of like an edited, polished, produced video. That's something I can mention here. It's just a thought. It's not like a conversation. I've talked a lot about how it is important to have a creative community if you're an artist. Because I think being a creative is an isolating / alienating experience. Most people you meet in adult life don't have that chip. That's not something that they prioritize or even think about. And so it's nice to find, fellow tribe members, whether it's virtually, like a group or, whatever, or like, listening to the Making Comics podcast, or finding a YouTube channel that, you feel like serves that kind of parasocial experience of like, okay, I know another artist now. But best of all is to actually, like, in your social life, like people your friends are also that way, which is why I feel very lucky and blessed that, for the Crestline crew, the Artcasters guys, the Making Comics guys, Jim Lujan, Corey Kerr, like this kind of family of creatives that not only do we interact online a lot, but at least once a year, we try to get together in person and actually have a real relationship. I'm very grateful and thankful to that. I've always emphasized the importance of it for any kind of creative, whether you're just starting out. I think especially if you're just starting out, but even as you get more further and further down the path. That said, what it doesn't provide you, and it's something I've been thinking about more lately. I don't know why. It's just, I guess I'm just at that stage of the journey. It won't help you really understand why you are the way you are. It will help you feel less lonely. It'll help you feel like less of a weirdo to like be in a room with similarly weird weirdos. But it won't give you any wisdom into like, okay, but why am I compelled to do this? And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I don't know why. I don't know what made it bubble up, but I have been spending more and more time thinking about asking myself, like, why am I this way? And it's not a lament. It's not a, an implied criticism of being this way. Like, I would prefer be this way. But why? Why am I doing this? Look at this. Hour and 40 minutes, bagging and boarding. This thing that I spent, all told, probably 18 months making. The latest thing, and a thing I've spent maybe 8 years chipping away at. And I can't explain it. I can't explain it. And I'm not like, why? It's not like because I want to be cured of it, or it's like, or why, I need to explain this kind of self-inflicted torture, like, it's not like that. It's just this curiosity of like, why is that a thing with me? I don't know, but I'm thinking about it more and more. Let's see here. See, here we go. Already. You're off to the races. Can't wait. I hope it's hot. All right. When you're creating, hold right there. I'm going to get a few more books to bag. Let's see, I went through my pile. When you're creating, do you find yourself drifting back to the familiar when resolving story situations? It's an interesting question. It's a complicated question, I think, because I hate answers like this, but I think you have to give this answer in this. It depends. It depends how we mean it. Like, on one hand, like the way you would choose to tell a story is kind of what it's all about. So you don't want to steer too, if for like, you wouldn't want to overdo like, well, I've done something in this way before. I've told the story in this way. Like, I've made that kind of choice before, so I shouldn't this time. To me, that seems artificial. Like, to me, that would be like going to Quentin Tarantino and being like, have you thought about writing tight dialogue? It's like, part of what makes Quentin Tarantino is his dialogue, for good or ill. Or, so I think what you try to do, though, is like, how do I keep it fresh, even if it is still very distinctly and recognizably how Gary would tell a story. There's this strange kind of, to me, there's like a balance between, this is how I would tell the story, like, and preserving that. And this is the kind of story I would tell, like, preserving that. But also, I'm not repeating myself. It might rhyme, but I'm not repeating myself. Does that kind of make sense? I will say, for maybe a more specific kind of example of this, or discussion point of this, I find, this is something I've always found when I'm writing. When I'm writing dialogue. And people are disagreeing or have different, not even actively disagreeing, but just have different ideas. And they're both sharing, you know, like, I think this, even if it's as simple as that. My first draft always, I don't know why, I'm sure it says something about me, but it always is too hot. It's too heated. It's a little too like arguey. And I'm always having to like, in my successive drafts, like pull it back, like make it a little, because that's not what not what I was going for. Like, I don't want it to be like, I want it to be a conversation. So how do I, you know, tame this a little bit? And like I said, this is just my natural tendency when writing, and it's something I always have to be mindful of when I'm reading it and revising, is like, sometimes I have a tendency to like steer into that and just not paying attention, you know, not really thinking about it, not thinking about how it's going to read or play. And then I have to soften in the rewrites. This was the first one, not really the first, but it was the first where there's a heated conversation that I didn't want. And if anything, I wanted to turn it up a little bit. Like, this is a fight. Like, you have in the last one, the scientist one, Dr. Wagner at one point is kind of ranting, and like her boss slash paramour, whatever, you know, like, is just kind of wisely letting her get it all out. Like, he's not trying to jump in there and fact check or calm her or anything. He's just letting her punch herself out, you know, and he's kind of just, she's like a lot of heat, a lot of aggression, kind of directionless aggression. She's ranting. She's pissed off. And she's just like, you know, these fucking people. Like, that's the kind of energy. But so that's not the same. That's not like an argument. Then the previous ones, you would have these tense conversations or difficult conversations or conversations where people disagree, but not an argument, like people openly, non-physically fighting. And this was the first one where I got to do that. And so that was an example where it's like, in a way, I was avoiding the familiar. It's my tendency to write scenes like that for whatever reason. And I'm always kind of like making it more benign. The unfamiliar familiar this time was like, no, we're going to keep it. And in fact, like, I want a conversation that you're worried could boil over, that this could end up in violence. Like, this is not going in the right direction. No one's giving each other a break. Both people are like at their wit's end with the other person. So that was fun. That was fun to finally do that. Let me look at, let's see here. Going to be in and out as we're cleaning up a house full of, after a house full of holiday guests. Oof. That's work. I really want to stop in when I saw you live and give a shout. Hey, really appreciate you, Paul. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm going to get your book out with all the rest, all the orders that come in this weekend. I'm going to get out Monday, however many it is. So you should be seeing your copy sometime next week, I would think, later next week. I hope you love it. I'm very excited about it. So thank you so much. So that's a new thing in this one. Another new thing in this one, I do have a tendency with these DvsM to write very, very character focused. Like the camera focus is on very, very, very tight on one or at most two people. It's very much like this person's story. And usually the other person, if there is another person, only exists. I mean, I'm trying to conceal this, but they really only exist as a way to tell you things about the main character. So, going back to the scientist one, Dr. Wagner. She has her pet, spoilers, an oviraptor, a dinosaur, Opie. Opie is not a character. Opie like has some character traits, but it's not a character we want to really dig into. Opie exists more than any other reason to reveal things about Dr. Wagner. Okay, like that's what I mean, where it's very focused. This story is about Dr. Wagner, and any characters that wander in and out of frame are to help you understand Dr. Wagner better. This one, 2001, The Soldier, is a little different, where there are realized characters, all six guys I sat and kind of thought about and figured out what are they like, what are they after, what are their motivations, how would they think about this, what would they say about that, like really kind of. And unlike the past where it's more about your main character, in this case it's the Sam character, there is some of that, but mostly it's actually like seeing them kind of talk to each other. And what does that represent? Like really trying to like come up with characters that to me represent something that helps you sometimes understand Sam better, but usually understand the idea better. Like here's an example of this kind of guy that represents this kind of perspective. And that's the kind of perspective that I want to use to talk about the larger idea in this book. That was new. And I don't know if we'll really see that again, because knowing where I'm going with the fifth one and the sixth one, I don't think you're going to see like a big cast. Like I think this for sure will be the biggest cast of a DvsM. So that was changing it up, and it was a fun exercise. It was also part of what made it a huge fucking pain in the ass to draw. Because rather than drawing one or two people talking or doing whatever they're doing, now you're drawing six people. And man, the worst pages were the pages where you actually see most or all the people in a few different panels, which just, I mean, you're just, it's just a simple math problem. If I have, like, if we're talking about the bystander book, the Jenny book, you know, most pages you're seeing Jenny or Cynthia, or maybe Jenny and Cynthia. Okay. So at worst, let's say there's 6 panels, which is usually my max number of panels on a page. Let's say somehow you have both characters in each panel. You're only drawing, like, it's just a math problem. You're getting, you have to draw a face 12 times, some person's face 12 times. Now let's do the math for it. Now I don't think, I didn't do any pages that were so dense as 6 panels with all 6 guys, but there were some that were a lot of panels and it's all six guys sitting around a fire, or, you know, all the guys in a truck or whatever. Multiple panels of that. Like in a way you're drawing maybe, you know, 50 figures on a page in my self-imposed week time limit. Like I in a week I have to finish this page, and I've got a lot of panels of like all these guys sitting around a fire talking. That sucked. It sucked. It was an interesting challenge. I'm proud of myself for navigating it. In fact, I actually finished the comic slightly ahead of schedule, which is, for me, unheard of. I never go late, but I'm usually like pretty much like I end up where I thought I was going to end up. To be like a week, whatever I was, like I think a week and a half ahead was bananas. And I think it's just because, well, it's a lot of things, but one of it was because I was worried about my deadline. I started burning some PTO and made my night job my day job, made my comic job my day job, where I was just sitting at home and drawing all day to get where I wanted to be. And that actually went well enough where I ended up ahead. So that was cool. Okay, let's see here. What more can I tell you about the book at this point? So this is a soldier story. Some of you might remember it, like from about a year ago or something, talking about the research for it. Read a couple books on the soldier's life. Watched a lot of movies, documentaries, but also movies about purporting to show like that life, mostly to avoid well-trodden territory in terms of telling stories about soldiers. I didn't want to tell a super familiar soldier story. Fortunately, at least in my limited research, like reading books, watching movies, watching documentaries, I feel like there are a couple low-hanging fruit soldier and military story ideas that people just hit over and over and over. And some of them don't even apply to the kind of soldiers I'm writing about in this story. For example, and this is something I know I think I did bring up in a past video, you know, a lot of soldier stories are kind of about like the draft. It's about taking normal people, whatever that means, and dropping them in the military and sending them overseas and making them fight. And the experience of that, which is an interesting story, a worthy story. I mean, it's the story of Vietnam. It's, I mean, in a lot of ways, the story of World War II. That's a story worth telling. It also is not the story of special forces types. Special forces types are not weepy draftees. They're not people who were drafted into service. They're professional. This is what they wanted to do. This is what they dream of doing. This is the thing they are better at than most people in the world. Like these are specialists. These are people who have spent their lives getting good at what they do and having, you know, that life. And, you know, Platoon isn't about that. That's totally, Saving Private Ryan isn't about that. Like, you know, so those are things that right away it's like, well, I don't need to even look at this because this isn't the kind of soldier I'm talking about. So then you're looking at things like The Hurt Locker, which is not fully in that direction, but it's more about like the kinds of things that I was interested in. Documentaries about special forces, reading books about special forces, listening to podcasts hosted by ex-special forces guys, trying to get a feel for that, trying to get a sense of like, what are these guys like? Coming up with enough like bits and pieces that you can sprinkle in your story to give it that like, yeah, that's kind of how these guys talk, or yeah, that's what they look like, or how they carry themselves, or the sorts of things they would say, you know, just enough to give it that whiff of authenticity. But after all, I went through all the soldier stuff, what I ended up with in terms of research, I actually looked at a ton of Westerns. Some of it like neo-Westerns, like what's a neo-Western? Like No Country for Old Men, Lone Star, Hell or High Water, Wind River, like things like that. My stack of comics is starting to get a little shaky. But also then like Westerns, like more classically, like set in, the past. I think almost all the DvsMs, maybe not the last one, maybe not the Dr. Wagner one, but I think almost all the DvsMs kind of have a Western vibe to them, like kind of can be imagined as a Western. But this was the first one where I really was like, that to me was the framing for it. That to me was like the vibe I wanted. I wanted something. I think it was Lawrence Kasdan said in an interview. He's director, screenwriter, famously wrote Empire Strikes Back. He said in an interview, like almost any story can be told as a Western. I'm letting that sit for a little bit so you can think like, and when you think about it, like any Star Wars movie could be told sort of as a Western. But he was saying like any good story can be told as a Western. I would say, and I've said this in the past, I think any story can be told in any genre, like as a genre story, like whether it's a Western or a martial arts movie or a sci-fi movie or, a horror movie. Like I think genre is the camouflage for any, like the camouflage coat you can put over any idea. Especially sci-fi. So like I was saying, in that sense, all the DvsMs to me can be viewed as Westerns. I mean, it's set in Arizona, but it also has sort of a Western, just because I'm from Arizona and I grew up here and I remember when it was a smaller town and I think that just gets in there. This was the one that I really approached with that kind of mentality of like, I want to treat this a little bit like guys out on a bounty hunt. Like, and that was a little bit of how I thought about it when I was coming up with tone. So I did a bunch of soldier and military service research for, in terms of vibe and feel, looked at a lot of Westerns for inspiration and kind of went from there. There is another piece of very important inspiration. It was where the very initial idea for this story came from, but I'm not sharing that today because I talk about it in the thank you notes of this latest book. So if you want to get into like the making of stuff, I would say get the book and then read the kind of thank you acknowledgements page, and I talk about sort of where the original idea came from. Okay, I've got a nice pile, a big enough pile of comics where I think I need to start filling a long box before I start bagging and boarding more. We are at 2 hours, which is I think a good number. I'm going to look at, let's see here. That was more or less Roddenberry's statement on writing Star Trek. Yeah. I mean, there's I forgot who said this to Tarantino. I want to say it was Francis Ford Coppola, but I'm not 100% on that. I know whoever it was Tarantino getting this message. Let's just, for the sake of this conversation, we'll say it was Coppola. I'm not 100%, but Coppola asked him once, have you ever thought about making a movie without the camouflage of genre? And you can look at Tarantino's work and see that his answer was, by demonstration, no. But irrelevant, I love the question because it's a very clear identification of not only Tarantino's work, but the role often of genre. That is, it is a sort of a camouflage, that it allows you to talk about things that if you just talked about it straight, people, it's not just that they wouldn't be as entertained, they may not be as open to it. Or it may be too whatever, too emotional, too dry, too thinky, too whatever. But if you can camouflage it, to use the word, like in some kind of genre, like it makes the coating on the pill that allows it to go down. You know, it's something, and it breaks, it interrupts maybe your own biases, where you might tune out because it's like, this isn't a message I want to hear because of my own stuff. If it's camouflage of genre, it circumvents that wall you're putting up, where you're saying like, no. So for example, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but let's say you have a political position. Okay. Actually, let's do real world, because it's sort of real world. I'm going to give a real genre example. Let's say you're interested in talking about totalitarianism and the brutality of a impersonal system and revolution and rebellion, you know, and you actually want to talk about it in kind of an academic way. There's a lot of reasons why, just what I've laid out, different people might be like, well, I don't want to, that sounds boring, or that sounds very technical, or that sounds very academic, or that sounds like a critique of what I do believe politically, and like I don't want to hear it from, you know, this person or you or whatever. Or like, there's all these, again, these weird little interruptions where it's like, ugh. But if you instead turn it into something like Andor, people will sit and be like, this is riveting, this is fascinating, this is interesting. If you do something like Blade Runner, talk about what does it mean to be a human, you know, when you do something like Blade Runner and you do this meditation on what is an empathy test, is this movie an empathy test? Because we've told you this is a fake person, but we're making you feel something about them. What does that say? Like, if you're getting into that, you have slipped in under the wire in your camouflage to the audience. Whereas if you had said, like, here's a 2-hour philosophy lecture, like, it's on YouTube, it's free, you should watch it sometime, they would be like immediately like, I don't have time for that shit. Like, I can't, I got stuff to do. But they'll sit and watch Blade Runner. I think that's the power of genre. And I think about that a lot with DvsM. And I think people who are really into it and read it, like, they can tell, they know. But Star Trek's another great example of that. You know, again, most sci-fi, I think great sci-fi to the last example, like, is very conscious of this. Yeah, Twilight Zone's another good example, because TV censors won't allow them to say straight. Yeah, exactly. Camouflage of genre. I hope now that concept, if you weren't familiar with it before, sticks like it did for me when I was first, like, you know, it was one of those things where it's like, it just unlocked to like, of course, makes perfect sense. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for suffering through my angst-ridden hand-wringing over I'm a creative and people are going to see my work again. Thank you for hearing my confession about not being very good being out there and talking about my work and showing myself and my work to people and sharing it. And thanks for just helping me pass the time when I'm doing this repetitive, menial task of bagging and boarding a bunch of books. I don't think, for all I've done, I still have a lot more to do, but 2 hours is good for a stream. So let's see here. You a cowboy and all. Yes, I am a cowboy. I'm absolutely a cowboy. Mary Jackson, everybody. The visual reference for Dr. Veronica Wagner in DvsM 1979. And also Utterly Darling. Okay. See you guys next time. I'm not going to promise when, but probably sooner than you think, because now I'm in promo mode and I got to get books out and I want to start doing what I can. Again, finding my own way to do it, but I've got to be more present. If you have ideas, how do I make this promotion thing easier and fun for me? I would love to hear them. There's no bad ideas because who knows what it'll unlock. Talk to you all next time. Thank you very much. And appreciate all the fans. Appreciate the orders that have come in already. I think I saw my phone light up a couple times while we were doing the stream. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means a lot to me, really. And every other creative would say the same thing. By the way, support other creatives. Say no to AI. And fluoride isn't going to kill you. Okay, that's it.